Hi, welcome to One Eye on the Page. I am Scott. We are doing the ranking of Stephen King short stories, 115 total of them. That includes those that were commercially published and were complete because he has commercially published partial stories, I believe once in Writer's Digest as a contest and a few other times in different magazines. These are complete commercially published stories. This is These are stories 50 through 46. Let's get started. We're pretty much in the, as I've said before, good to, well, not quite great yet, but we're getting to great. These are stories that are generally good. There may be a quibble that I have with them for one reason or another that makes them not get ranked higher. But number 50 is Squad D. This is a story that he originally wrote for Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions. Ellison did not accept it. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I do kind of feel like for what Ellison might be looking for, this wouldn't count as dangerous. It's far from even King's most out there or hard or mind-boggling story. It is about a man gets a picture of his son's patrol in Vietnam. There's a person that wasn't in the picture that is now in the picture, and he basically looks to find out why. Everybody in that patrol was killed except for this one person. This one to me is it's not a bad story. I do find it interesting. It was a choice on King's part to do it from a father's point of view rather than from the soldier's point of view. I understand the logistics of why that didn't happen based on the way the story ended, but it feels to me, and perhaps this is one of the reasons that Ellison didn't include it in Dangerous Visions, is that it's a bit removed from the horror of the situation, from the devastation of the situation. So I enjoyed it. It was good, but I can see where it could have been better. Authors love it when you say that. But I was like, oh, but wouldn't it have been nice if. Short story number 49 was in Night Shift. It is one for the road. This is basically after the events in Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot is kind of a ghost town. Down the road in a bar, somebody comes in, says something about his family. People from the bar check out the situation. It's essentially a vampire tale. Again, along with Squad D, nothing wrong with the story. It's fine. Hate that term also. But it doesn't really stand up, when you compare it to Salem's Lot. It's not quite a throwaway story, but it could be. Essentially, it's not one of my favorite stories from Night Shift. I will say, I actually sat down this past week and wrote out final 50 stories of this ranking because, as I had previously said before, I put them in quarters or in 4 sections, and basically, okay, these are the best stories, these are really good stories, these are okay stories, and these stories kind of suck. But I sat down and took the final 50 stories and ranked them all out, I have noticed, although I wouldn't necessarily say that either of these collections are my favorite collections, or at least not right out the top of my head going, oh yeah, that's favorite collection. But Night Shift and Skeleton Crew seem to have the most stories, like especially when we get into like the top 25 stories. But as we have seen in previous, like near the 100 and so, there are some stories from these collections that are there also. Got some really great ones, got some stinkers too. And this one it's good. I said previously about, I don't remember what collection it was, but if I took collection down and went in to read it, there would be stories that I would like, oh, I have to reread this. One for the Road is not one of those stories. If whatever story was before it, if I read that, which I don't even know if that story is any good. What is that story that's right before One for the Road? It's The Man Who Loved Flowers. So, not one of my favorite stories. So, there's very little chance that I would pick up Night Shift and go for One for the Road. Even less chance that I would read The Woman Who Loved Flowers. Short story number 48 is Cookie Jar. Cookie Jar is kind of an uncollected short story. There are, I believe, let me read. I don't think I wrote it down here, but I do believe that is included as a bonus in another book, like in the paperback release of another book. I don't know if it's in a collection, or I think it's either in a collection, I think The Bizarre Bad Dreams possibly, or it was included in one of the Gwendy books. When I'm editing this, I will look it up and see. But as far as part of an initial short story collection, it's not out there. Which we don't find too many stories that are, in my opinion, in the top 50 that aren't collected. We just happen to hit two. Cookie Jar is basically a man is in a nursing home. He's talking to his grandson. It's one of those, and I forget what it's called, but one of those stories where it's a tale within a tale, kind of like The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is a tale within a tale within a tale. This one is about the grandfather talking about how his mother had a cookie jar that, seemed to always be full, had delicious cookies. And at one point, and I won't go into full details to not be spoiler, but at one point, he makes it his goal to get to the bottom of the cookie jar. And he does. And two problems that I have with this story. I love older people telling tales, and Stephen King stories is always, or at least almost always, good for me. But two things that do bother me about the story is one, doesn't really have an ending, which doesn't generally bother me. I don't mind, a tale where like this happened. It's like, it's I don't want to be like, Vern and Teddy when Gordy talks the Revenge of Lord Ass Hogan and be like, and then what happened? Oh, that ending sucks. But, and I don't think the ending sucks, I just don't think this ending is here. Which I would have accepted. Also, it kind of comes down to the theme of the story could be kind of a cliche, which I won't say what the cliche is because it does kind of give away a little bit. But those are a little bit disappointing. But overall, I enjoyed the story. I do think it should be collected in a short story collection officially, but as of yet has not. Short story number 47 is also in Night Shift. There's only 2 collections represented this week. And Night Shift is one of them, and it is The Lawnmower Man. Now, if you've seen the movie, it's nothing like that. I have not seen the entirety of the movie. I have no desire to, but I definitely know that that has nothing to do with the short story. The short story, a man basically hires somebody to mow his lawn, and it turns out that that person is a representative of the god Pan. Which seems silly, but it's better than it seems. It's a very typical Night Shift type of story. Short and brutal in some ways. The character work isn't particularly great, but it's good. You only really have 2 characters in here. There are other characters that show up, but only 2 characters that really matter. So, and one of them, I believe the man's name is Harold, the one who wants his lawn mowed, and I can't remember the name of the lawnmower man. But it is, again, it's a typical mid-70s Stephen King short story character. I think his character work, particularly in short stories, got better through the years, but that also happened to do with his short stories bloating a bit. And there are good things in that, and then there are bad things in that. This was a story that was originally published in Cavalier, which is I don't think it exists anymore, a men's magazine. In number 46, which is in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, is the 10 O'Clock People. I believe when I did my ranking of novellas that I did think for a little bit on this one whether or not it was a short story or a novella. I believe it is a little long for a short story, but it didn't quite reach novella length. I think this one is a strange tale. It's interesting. Basically, it's about 10 o'clock people are people who go outside at 10 o'clock for smoke breaks, because smoking is looked down. Even then, I believe this was in the 90s. Okay, the 10 o'clock people wasn't published in anything except Nightmares and Dreamscapes, but I believe it was it 93 or 94, I believe, that it was published. So smoking was looked down upon then. It's obviously even more looked down upon now. I am not a fan of smoking myself. I had a mother who smoked. We'll just say that. And I think one of the reasons that it doesn't rank higher for me is because smoking is a huge part of it. But also, I do think it is a little bit bloated. I do think it could have been a little bit shorter. It's not one of those ones where it's like, oh, I'm in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, I'll read this one. But if I happen to skip to it, yeah, I guess I'll read it. So it was decent. but smoking, man. So those are stories 50 through 46. Getting even closer, I'm probably going to post a few of these before I get to my next 5-year battle P.G. Wodehouse, because I have so many Wodehouse books to read in it. The 5-year periods that I have left, only one of them do I only have one book to read in it, which that's a book I'm reading now. I think I will finish it this weekend, so I may post this, then post Wodehouse, then go back to posting the Stephen King stories. That is it for now. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment. I'll talk to you next time.